So thank you so much to our audience today for joining Music for its industry session, another installment of our For the Culture series, Latinx music. My name is DeMarco White, and I'm the Institutional Partnerships Manager for Music Forward. For those of you joining us for the first time, Music Forward Foundation is a national nonprofit organization inside the House of Blues and Live Nation family, and our mission is to simply transform young lives, inspire careers, and champion a more inclusive music industry. We provide artist development and career development programs for youth to inspire the next generation of leaders and innovators. So again, we welcome all of our young people and students in our audience today to learn from our great and experienced group of professionals that we're going to hear from during this session. Before we get into introductions, I want to lay a few ground rules as normal. One is we encourage you all to ask questions to our panelists. Just enter them into the Q&A box, and I will ask them throughout our session. We also have some polls for you all to participate in, so we encourage your participation in those. And then we also have our chat that is open, and we just ask that you be respectful and professional in our chat, and if we see if things are getting out of hand, we will unfortunately have to shut it down. And at the end of our session, you'll be prompted to complete a survey, and we'd love to get your feedback on today's session, as well as any topics you want to hear from in the future. So go ahead and enter your information and complete that survey. So with that, let's get into some introductions. Very excited to have you all here. Laura, we're going to start with you, and excited to have you introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Rodriguez, and I work for the Recording Academy. I've been there for 7 years. I manage all of our Recording Academy social media platforms. So whatever you see on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that's me sharing the content. And I work closely with our digital team in order to ensure that those messages get across to the general masses.
Thank you. Wil-Dog, introduction for us.
Hi, I'm Wil-Dog Abers. I'm the founding member of Ozomatli. I also when I manage 3 bands, Las Cafeteras, Arise Roots, and Sunny Sing.
So cool. Cesar?
What's going on, man? My name is Cesar Allen from Los Angeles, California. Got my start as a tour musician for some of your favorite acts, and then went into producing and songwriting. And then the journey took me into being an artist now. So I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of amazing talent all around the world that I was able to learn so much from. And now I'm venturing off into my own artist career as a Latin artist.
Cool. And last but not least, Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Simonitsch. I work for Live Nation, part of the talent team. Native Angelino from Los Angeles with, Mexican and Puerto Rican mom and dad from Echo Park. And so I joined Live Nation through acquisitions. I used to be one of the promoters at the Universal Amphitheater at Universal Studios. I began my career there. When the studio knew that the Latin market was going to be growing and started Spanish language tours and promoting local acts, and then grew into the concert fields when we used to fill up the Universal Amphitheater, and I'm proud to have worked with so many international groups and welcomed Wil-Dog to many, many events. He used to be one of my supporters, aside from Ozomatli performing at, for years at our House of Blues clubs. He used to come, and I would always say, "What are you doing here at this banda show or corrido show or premios?" And he says, "I'm just really venturing into all this exciting music." And so I remained with Live Nation through all the acquisitions, and really proud to be part of that company who is very aggressive in multicultural entertainment and supportive of my Latin content.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much all for you all being here today, and I'm really excited about today's conversation. I want to start our conversation talking about music, right? Latin music. And Wil-Dog, I want to start with you in terms of you being a musician and an artist. Who is the artist, or what was the song that you first heard within Latin music that you knew, this is the type of music I wanted to create, this is the music that embodies who I am? Who was that artist for you? What was that song?
I don't know, for me, it's never been a song, it's always been a rhythm. You know, I've since I was a child, I've always been just attracted to African rhythms. I mean, even just saying that all rhythm comes from Africa anyways. So it's, I've been attracted to rhythms around the world, and they all have a relationship to, you know, the beginning of humanity, really. And there's a lot that you can learn. Always been about, you know, getting closer to that, the root level of who we are as humans. And that's kind of what music does. I believe that, you know, before we ever even spoke together, some person banged on a rock to another person on the other side of the hill to say, you know, there's a chicken over here that we can eat, you know. And I think that's, you know, it's the first form of communication. And that's what I've always been attracted to about just music. And that goes with Latino music, because if you look at the, you know, origins of that, is Africa as well. And it's all under the same roof.
Cesar, going off of that same question, who were some of the artists or songs that you heard when you were growing up?
I mean, for me, growing up, both of my parents are Mexican. I'm Mexican, so in my household, you would hear Vicente Fernandez, you would hear Luis Miguel, you would hear, I mean, Jose. There's so many artists that you would hear, and for me, I really do think that El Puma and Vicente Fernandez and those really iconic musicians really paved the way for me to really get and really want to be in the music industry, right? Hearing the songs that my parents, you know, they're immigrants. So the music that you hear in Mexico, and now they're bringing them here. It just, I feel as though there was a connection with them, that nostalgic connection, that even though they were in a different country, they still felt that their Mexican roots were being heard. And that was just super important to me. And even now, I still listen to that music. And I can honestly tell you, you know, when I have nephews or kids, I'm going to make sure that they stick to those roots, and that they know that this music, you know, comes from their background and their culture.
And then to Emily and Cesar, do you all have sort of want to continue on to that question, in artists and songs that you remember listening to growing up that have very, very much influenced who you are and the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Cesar, why don't you start with like a younger format? You probably have some younger ideas, but I'll follow up after you. You start.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I resonated a lot with what Laura and Will was saying, because I listened to all that stuff growing up. For me, it was all that stuff you guys mentioned, a lot of rock en español, you know, like Mana and Anitos Verdes and La Unión. So that was a big influence of mine. It's rounds like Románticas, like Los Bukis, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Marco Antonio Solis. So like I grew up listening to a lot of that stuff with a lot of Motown and just like Marvin Gaye,
Yes,
a lot of that whole sound. So I think for me, in the Latin market, like the rock en español community really spoke a lot to me, like all the Románticas, all that stuff, all the stuff that you guys mentioned, along with the Motown vibe and funk and like Tower of Power, like a lot of that was hugely influential for my musical, you know, abilities. You know.
Yeah, and I, having both cultures of Puerto Rican, my dad Puerto Rican, who came to Los Angeles and met my mom's family, and the Vicente, the Juan Gabriel, Rocio Durcal, the Aguilar family, who started the charreadas and the rodeos, and one of the first shows in Madison Square Garden with his horses. And then on the Puerto Rican side, the Gran Combo, the Celia Cruz, Tito Puente. I mean, I knew the difference between the music and the food and the culture. And so that was really an amazing opportunity for me to learn the music. And then, you know, Trailblazers of, you know, going to see, they had to go see shows at Pico Rivera Sports Arena, because that's who presented most of the Latin acts and the $1 Million Theater. And that's when we really began communicating with them about, well, we could work in the interior of the Gibson Amphitheater and present shows more like on a date night in the fall and winter seasons, and then continuing to support the Pico Rivera with the charreadas and the summertime, you know, outdoor amphitheaters, which I think every Latin that lives in Southern California knows what Pico Rivera is, and it was always a namesake and continues to be a namesake.
Yeah.
I love the when we came on, Emily and Wil-Dog, you all immediately like we know each other from back in the day and sort of where our start was, and I want to talk about the evolution of not just Latin music but also the Latin market and consumer. And Emily, you were doing a lot of things in your career when you switched over to Live Nation and the Latin audience began to grow. And so, what do you contribute to that evolution?
Well, I think the fact that the partnership and of securing House of Blues and being able to nurture and work with groups who can do 500 capacity venues and then grow to every level up to arena size is what our focus is. That's what our major profile of artists is, to see them grow and hopefully stay with them. And I mean, like Wil-Dog, who has been with Ozomatli for years and had successes of being able to branch. I've always tried to get them to go into like, just do your own show at Gibson Amphitheater and stop going to all these small clubs and stay out of the market and come and do one big show with us. But they are just they're kind of a group that you want to be welcoming an audience or opening up for someone, or because it's such a party vibe, which is similar to Pitbull now, or getting the growth and seeing the excitement of the J Balvin and the Maluma, because you talk to these artists now and they all like came from the same supporting and looking out at the groups of Gloria Estefan and the cultures and musicians that started from them in the past. So yeah, there's just the evolution of growth that's going to continue. But it's really interesting hearing from Laura and also Cesar to hear that reflection, remembrance of these acts. I mean, Vicente Fernandez did 9 shows over a 3-week period at Gibson. I mean, before the arenas, and he could have gone and done, the Coliseum. And it's like, no, I want to be close to the people. And we used, it was so great welcoming so many artists and getting to know promoters and musicians from all age groups, because we'd have on-air personalities come and their listeners were happy to see them, and it's a reckoning to see the support of young musicians with these artists who really laid the groundwork.
Yeah. Wil-Dog, sort of going off of all of that, sort of were you able to them as Latin music moved into the mainstream? How did that change where your band was performing and even how you were engaging your fans?
Yeah, I mean, first I have to say thank you to Emily for getting me into all those shows. You got me into 2 of those Chente shows at the Gibson. That was over 10 years ago. I don't know how long ago that was, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and then rest in peace, you said Pico Rivera, rest in peace Hauser, he used to get me into, I've seen Chente at Pico Rivera, Sports Arena, Rancho Parayon, back in the day. So, anyways, but I think what's interesting, hearing this talk about, Latino music, and because Ozomatli, we don't only do Latino music, we ventured into hip hop. Our first single, when we put out our first record in '97, the record label, they, because we did English and Spanish. So we had songs that were in English, we had songs that were in English and Spanish, and they chose to go with a song that was in English called Cut Kema Sweet. And so we put all of our ducks in Cut Kema Sweet. And meanwhile, we're out on tour, on the Warped Tour, with the single out, with the video out, trying to push it on MTV. But K-Rock added Como Ves, which was a song in Spanish. And this was the first time K-Rock ever added a song that was sung in Spanish. And it was kind of like it's a soca song, but in Spanish. And they were playing it, and it was getting heavy rotation. And so we were kind of blindsided by this, where we had this one song we were putting all this money into with the record label, but then, K-Rock somehow picked up this tune, Como Ves, and it was doing really well. And we never really went for it. And that was kind of like maybe something that we missed. You know, in today's day, you know, you're on English radio, and you know, and English and Spanish doesn't matter as much. You know, you'll hear these songs. You know, we even got on Spanish radio, they wanted to play cumbia, but they wanted us to take out the middle rap that was in English, our song Cumbia de los Muertos. You know, we said no to that because we were hardcore musicians who believed in our craft. You know, looking back at it now, though, I wish we had taken it. Yeah. You know, yeah. Anyways, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it more than answers the question. Thank you both for sharing. Cesar, when you first opened up and you were introducing yourself, you talked about sort of you being in the music business and working with touring artists and working with, and even I know mentored artists even through Music Forward, and now being own and being a musician. Talk to our audience, because a lot of our audience members are in that exact transition where they've got hustles with to sort of move them into being an artist. Talk to us about that transition, the decision to make.
Absolutely. Yeah, first and foremost, I want to say I'm definitely very, very blessed. Like the journey that I had and the unique way that I had. You know, I'm firstborn here. I come from immigrant parents, and you know, it's interesting. I've always defined success in such a different ways, but I know the first thing that I saw in success was like for my parents, it was like just getting here was success. You know, and so for me as firstborn here, Latino, you know, I wanted to evolve the culture, evolve the opportunities as I can. Like in my family, I'm like the first entrepreneur, first person in my family that was able to actually accomplish what I said I wanted to accomplish. And, you know, God has been real good in that process. But I've always believed in about evolving. You know, I always looked at stuff that I was passionate about with obviously like humility and respect, but with the idea of it being a stepping stone, you know. So when I started playing guitar, like around 14, 15, you know, I was writing songs and playing at coffee shops and playing like punk rock and garage bands and backyard parties, and punk and ska was the vibe. And, you know, then I would do solo stuff out in coffee shops, and I never knew you can make a living playing for artists, you know, as a musician. I thought you had to be a band and get signed. And so, you know, I've just made a few friends along the way, and then they, you know, called me, hey, come audition, you know, for Kanye West. And eventually getting on these major tours and starting to work with these major pop artists. And I'm like, I had no idea you can make a living playing for an artist. And, you know, I didn't have enough of money to go to like Berkeley or MI or anything like that. So, you know, everything, you know, was pretty much on a self-taught vibe and self-taught hustle and everything like that. So all the connections that I made, and whether, you know, for anybody listening, if you're a musician and you're starting as a performer, or if you're a songwriter, producer, and you're starting as that, you know, take the opportunity in your journey to learn as much as you can. For me, as a touring musician, I made as many connections as I could. I learned as much as I could. Obviously, you're going to get screwed a few times along the way for you to learn. And then all that information and wealth and knowledge of, you know, from listening to on sound check people doing like, you know, storing that vocabulary for writing melody later, or hearing live show arrangements from the music director that was like, you know, one of the biggest music directors of all time, taking that now into my own live shows, those ideas. So I learned so much in the touring world that then when I went into writing and producing, you know, I had such a big musical vocabulary, being able to play several instruments, that I was able to take a lot of what I learned in the American pop market and then start transitioning into the Latin market, not just as a writer or producer, but as an artist. So even if you ever hear my music, it's not just, you know, in Spanish, it's also in English. It's Latin for sure, but it's crossover, because I actually got up in the American pop game. And like my first hit record was, you know, it was on the hip hop pop charts on Billboard. It wasn't in the Latin market. So, but being an actual native Spanish speaker first, the whole journey has taught me so many things, to now trying to put all that information into like one brand, one identity, and just market that, you know what I'm saying, and the messages and the frequencies, and in the musicianship and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I like that you share that sort of, even in these different roles, you were able to obtain these skills and experiences that you still today are using. I want to continue this conversation around success, right? Because I think it's such a big point of conversation when we talk about our careers and we talk about where we're going and what that means to us. And Lara, I know as you're a Titan, right, and you've been able to take that journey from Fullerton as with the Recording Academy as an intern, and then also grow it into this role that you're in now. So talk to us about that journey, and in that journey, what was the moment where you felt I'm right where I need to be?
Well, I mean, the journey was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Just like Cesar, my parents are immigrants. They couldn't speak English, and that was tough. You know, going to school, I had to learn a lot of things on my own. It was like financial aid. Can I apply? Can I not apply? How do I get into college? But thank God that I think as immigrants, we're very hardworking people and we figure things out and we're not afraid to ask the questions at times. And so I was able to get into Cal State Fullerton, and right there is, as crazy as it sounds for those who are in college right now, I didn't know what an internship was. It was at Cal State Fullerton where my peers were telling me, oh, where are you interning? Have you interned? And I'm like, internship? What is that? My parents never had an internship, right? And so I got out there and I hustled, right? I interned at various different organizations, companies, CBS, NBC, and the last one was at the Recording Academy. And at that time when I was in, as my undergrad at Cal State Fullerton, it was in 2012, 2013, where social media was still a thing that a lot of brands did not know how to manage or what to do with it. And at the Recording Academy, it was a still brand new department, right? It was only one woman running social media. And so I applied for that internship and we clicked. Literally, she called me the next day and told me, I love your attitude. I love your passion. When can you come in? And I took that. And as an intern, I really didn't know much about social, right? But I got a Twitter account. You know, I was already on Instagram. Facebook was around. Snapchat wasn't a thing. And obviously TikTok was not around. But I had a generation, you feel as though you have to say yes all the time, right? You don't know, should I say no? Are they going to feel as though they're like, I'm not hardworking enough? But through there, I mean, I've been there for 7 years. It's been my first job out of college. And I can honestly tell you that the first time I really felt that was for me was when I worked, well, 2 times. The first time was when I first started as an intern. We did this college tour with Young Guru, who's one of Jay-Z's producers. And so my task was to build a social media campaign around that and get college students like myself to post about the experience. And so I came up with some ideas. They liked them. We implemented them. At that time, Google Hangouts were a thing. So we did some cool Hangouts with like Wale and Questlove and J Period, which he's super dope DJ from New York. And it was there where I was like, this is what I wanted to do. I want to be in social media and digital marketing. It's a platform where you can communicate stories, you can interact with people. And I felt really passionate about it. And then I was able to work my first Grammy Award show, which was the 56th Grammy Awards. And I'll never forget that. It was an experience that felt right. That was a night of celebration of all the hardworking artists, producers, songwriters, people behind the scenes that don't get that credit, but we were fortunate enough to give them that credit. Was super powerful. And it was really nice because I was able to share my success with my sisters, right? They were able to attend that year, the Grammy Awards. And we know that's not an easy event to attend. So that felt right. That felt that all the struggle and everything that I had to endure literally paid off because my success, I was able to share that with my family.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing all that with us. I'm going to have the same question for you. What was the moment when you knew that you were right where you were supposed to be and this was the career for you?
Well, we used to do different festivals at Universal Studios. And just to see the turnouts on Sunday, I used to work with the radio stations and have, different radio stations promote the weekend remotes and events, and just to see the increase of patrons coming to the studio. And I remember once when Linda Ronstadt did a mariachi album from her family, and it was for the studio tour, and we had to use the Universal Amphitheater because there were so many people that were coming to hear her Canciones de mi Padre album that she had recorded. And so, you know, one of my, like, I just love being in the theater. I make it very important to be in the theater, of any size theater, when a musician comes on stage. I always feel like it's my house. I invited them, promoted them, and to be in the house just to see the reactions of fans. There's nothing more than listening to live music and the fans. So, you know, seeing that interest, I think from the marketing side, from beginning the on sale and watching through months of ticket sales continue to grow, and what we can do more and how we can do it better. And I think I enjoy going to support my colleagues at their shows, whether it's, even if it's not Latin. It might not be a show that I know of, but if it's selling tickets, I always want to kind of see what they're doing and support their successes. I think it's really important to partner with my team and learn from what's working on their shows, whether it be of different music genre. And so just from the start to the beginning, to see how shows go. And even if a show, not all concerts sell out, and you have to like stand up and take the heat of a show that doesn't sell as well, and communicate with the artist and what we can do next time. But it's always a growing. We need live music. We need new entertainers. And it's great to hear that Wil-Dog is producing and using the value and the knowledge that he has to help others. And Cesar, the same with you. It's like, you can't give up. You have to keep going out there and generating new, because that's what we need to evolve around this music.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily, for sharing that as well. I want to talk to Wil-Dog and Cesar about being artists. We have a lot of artists that are in our audience today, and I'm wondering, in this time as the music industry is evolving and is changing, or even just taking a breath right now with everything that's going on, how are you all creating? How are you producing and collaborating with other artists? And Wil-Dog, we can start with you.
I mean, it's a lot of remote, sessions. Really lucky because I got some, outside work, a couple commercials, and I got I just got like a theme song that I'm doing. And so I brought in a friend of mine who's just a really great orchestrator to help me with it, because it's mainly like strings. So with him, we finally, it was a real challenge to get Zoom to be able to hear like the Pro Tool session, and then for him to like take over my Pro Tool session from his, place. But that's pretty much what it is. It's Zoom calls. I've written songs on Zoom calls. I haven't been getting together with anybody. We actually have a show coming up at the Ventura Fairgrounds. That's a drive-in show on the 18th.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm just a little nervous about that too, because I believe in medicine, and I believe in doctors. I know that this virus has become very political, and almost like you can tell which side you're on by whether or not you wear a mask, which is ridiculous. But I'm really concerned for our older folks and people that have pre-existing concerns, and so I don't want to be the person to, give them that. So I have that on my conscience, even with this show coming up, and so it's a little nerving, but I'm going to do my best to, stay away from my band members, even though we're going to be on the same stage.
Yeah, I'm curious about, so this idea of a drive-in concert is a really cool concept. I'm very curious about how it plays out. When going to a concert, the biggest thing is really the fan engagement and the energy that the fans bring. So I'm wondering, have you and your band discussed how are you going to bring that energy to the stage and even get it from the fans so that it re-energizes you on stage? Have you all talked about that, and what does that look like?
No, it's almost like if you talk about it, it's jinxed and it probably will suck. So, it's more like the vibe right before you go on. It's one of those things. I mean, Cesar, you're on stage. It's like you can't manufacture it. If you eat right, if you do yoga, you're good with yourself, with your body. You look in the mirror, you're happy. Then you have an opportunity to do your best. If you feel like shit, oh, sorry, I know we have some young people. Feel bad about yourself, it's like, and we all go through it. I definitely do, and I don't always feel good about myself. And that's when I suck as a musician, when I'm not like at one with myself, So that's really what it's about. That moment, you get up there and I always, you got to play like it's my last show. So.
Yep.
I don't want to say that, but I'm going to do that because I don't want to jinx it, So yeah.
Emily, before we go back to Cesar on the same question, as a lead promoter and ingrained in the talent of Live Nation, what does promotion look like in terms of these drive-in concerts? Have you all spoken about them in terms of how that the industry could potentially be leaning towards that as a way to do live performances?
Well, look, everybody wants to work. I mean, I think there's a lot of artists that think it's going to go away and let's just wait and reschedule. And I think that we know that whether it's through radio stations or socials, everybody's just waiting for that day. I mean, we can't wait. I mean, it's when you've seen the protests, you've seen the gatherings, you've seen the beaches. I mean, people want to go out, and there's nothing more than connecting with an artist. And when you've watched some of the streaming and you see the messages of their communication, whether they've done special tributes, Marco Antonio Solis and Alejandro Fernandez did some things for Mother's Day, and you see all these messages of talent connecting. Manaz done the same. So I know the mainstream artists have done equally, but I think that there'll be no question that people will go out when it's the right time and they feel safe, and that the musicians feel safe. I think that's the same connection of not, and be careful, Wil-Dog, because I have spoken to some groups who have gone out and stay away and just do your thing, and there's the time for connecting and socializing after a show will come, right?
Yeah.
But I think we'll be ready. I mean, our team will be ready. We have an experienced team, and we have social with our socials and having artists record messages is always easy. I mean, it takes a team, it takes a village to put on a show. Right now, it's gone are the days of just getting an ad mat and buying spots on radio. It's the fan connection and the artist connection, because we want to do what you want. We want to secure the message and sell your input of the music that you're providing. So when we can ever have an opportunity with an agent to say, I need to talk to the manager, however the connection is, to make sure that we're selling to lift you up, and make sure that you're growing, because that's what it's about.
Thank you. Talking about, in our chat, we've had the conversations around trends that are happening with the music industry. I think everyone, where you're talking about exactly is everyone's curious about what the industry is going to look like, and not immediately, but also in the next 5 years. But Laura, when you're working with the Recording Academy, specifically around membership, what are some trends you're seeing when you're engaging with bringing in new artists, whether it's the way you communicate to them or the type of artists that you're bringing in for membership?
I think just in general, even from a social media perspective, we're just seeing that, especially during this time, that the one thing that brings people together and brings hope is music. And I think that's one thing that we can all agree on, which is why I love working at the Recording Academy. It's music really does unify us. I know it's so cliche, but in reality, it really does. And I think what we've been seeing now is more Latinx, to be honest with you. I think being more diverse too, not only Latinx, but other also races. I think we're seeing that more and more. And I think we're also in that transition where we do want to be more diverse, and you see it. So today, for example, we just announced our new membership class. So if you want to know more about that, obviously head over to our socials at Recording Academy, and obviously Grammy.com. Right there, you can literally read how we're literally expanding diversity and how we're doing our part to really get in that conversation, but really making sure that it is a representation of the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I wanna transition us a little bit because here at Music Forum we're all about career exploration and teaching our audience members and our participants all about the different careers that are in the music industry, but also like the skills that are needed to be successful in those different careers. So I want to do a round robin and really give you what are the one to two skills that you possess that allow you to be successful in your career. And Cesar, we'll start with you. What are the one to two skills that you know that you possess that allow you to be successful as an artist?
Got you. Well, for me, I was always known for my guitar playing. My guitar playing is the thing that got me noticed and got me in the game, and has pretty much attached itself to me as far as like that's like my thing, you know. And then going from there, just versatility. I think like it started with being able to identify myself with an instrument, and then from there it's like, okay, like I know it's like the idea of being versatile, being a skill might seem a little far-fetched, but I would definitely encourage everybody to like think of versatility as like a skill, because if you have that mindset of being able to learn how to produce, how to write, how to arrange, how to do different things, or even learn, you know, actually have the mental focus to actually want to learn music business and the royalties, publishing, all that stuff. I think that tenacity of versatility is a skill in itself. Like, you know, the short answer, I'd be like, sure, you know, I'm a musician, I play guitar, and then, you know, I produce, you know, that's a skill. But it's like that, you know, I think people are tuning in to get more value out of this. So I think, yeah, focus in on one thing that's going to like make a name for yourself, and then make the second thing more of a mindset type of approach of skill, you know, because then that is going to open doors for all these other things that you didn't think, as opposed to like, okay, you know, I learned how to play piano really dope, and that got me through the 10 years of making a living. Now, you know, I'm going to start, I don't know, songwriting, you know, that's cool. But, or, hey, yeah, piano playing got me through the 10 years. Now, you know, I'm going to start learning about like how to adapt into this industry so I can continue working.
Yeah. And we all also know that like being
that resonates to somebody. You know?
Well, you cut it in out.
What?
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
You cut out.
Okay.
What I was gonna say is that we know that being an artist is more than just playing an instrument, singing a song, right? You're essentially running your own business.
Absolutely.
Well, I think question for you: what are the one or two skills that you possess that allow you to be successful in your career?
For me, simple, right? Strategic thinking and management. I really feel as though those two things, the work harder, what is it? Yeah, work smarter, not harder, is so true and so key, and something that I kind of had to learn the hard way, right? Again, coming from immigrants' parents, like you got to work hard, you want to go work hard. But yet again, you can work hard, but work hard smartly, right? And for me, again, time management was super key. So for those who are watching and are in college, perfect that skill. That skill is going to help you tremendously when you're in the workplace. Second, strategic thinking, right? Think outside the box. Think, okay, well, this is an answer for this, but have we done it this way? We've always done it this way, but wait, I saw some other brands doing it this way. Can that work for us as well? Or research. So again, those two things have been really instrumental in my career.
Yeah, well, I want to add too, as far as interns that come to work. I know that when we've had interns, I think I've always really tried to encourage questions. Obviously, you have to have questions because everything is from your gut. I think we all do this from our gut, and we are responsible for our artists when we book a show from even though we have a marketing department and we have a ticketing department, it's up to us to monitor the ticket prices that are selling at the right prices. It's up to us to monitor the advertising and to see if there's anything more we can do. But when interns come in, I try to have them, you know, really just ask questions. What are you here for? What are you here to do to learn? And typically they'll be at the end of their sessions, they always want to interview some of the executives, and they'll come, can I interview you? And I said, no, I don't really want you to interview me. I want you to go pick a show or look at this venue, and I want you to go and shadow someone that's working, because there's so many facets, as Cesar's mentioned, from him playing the piano and then producing it. There's so many facets, like, you know, the operations, you know, what we do when doors open, and I'd rather you go, and, you know, usually our general managers or operations are so keen to helping someone. You know, you go and shadow someone from the start of a show to the end of the show, and that you can't gain more experience than watching what happens behind the scenes. And I remember, you know, when there's some kids that were photographers for a newspaper at a high school, and they were coming to write a review for a show, I said, well, why don't I put you on the photo list, and you can be a photographer for the night, you know, along with the other press, and write a story. And they just couldn't believe that I was giving them an opportunity to be a photo, to take pictures that night. But I think, you know, you really need to dive in, ask questions, and even if someone says no, then go to another person. But I think you need to be out there yourself.
Right, and being included. I mean, Emily, sticking with you, sort of, you've been in the game for quite a while and been able to develop a facet of skill. So what are the one of the skills that you feel like you possess that allow you to be successful?
Well, because I think that I mean, I really I want every show. I want to promote a show, an artist. I want the date in LA or Vegas or Fresno, Central Valley, wherever our territories are. And I want my other colleagues to be able to get their markets. And so I share information. This artist is routing, and I think, and we handhold. I mean, we have relationships, and I think it's up to us to, if an agent, you know, if there's agents who don't want to give us a show, then I'll go to the manager. I mean, I think it's up to us to sell and say, I will do everything I need to do to market your show and have you sell tickets. And I remember having an artist, a regional Mexican artist. We had one show in Vegas, and the next day was LA. LA was next to sell out. Vegas was not doing well. And I remember going into the dressing room and you know, sucking it up and saying to the artist, look, because usually in the secondary markets, not all management or agents go. They don't go to Fresno. They don't go to some of these markets. They're all in LA. In LA, everybody's in LA. But so I would go up to them and welcome them and say, tonight's, you know, the house is not really full. However, everybody here is your fan. So maybe less people than we anticipated. They paid to see you live. But tomorrow we're going to kill it, and we're going to celebrate in LA. So good luck tonight. And I turned around and walked away. And I remember the president of Vegas said, Emily, that was like, you could not have said that better, because they are fans. Whoever buys a ticket is a fan, whether it's a sellout or not a sellout.
Yeah. There's something about the Latin market and the loyal fans, right? And Wil-Dog, I want you to share a little bit more about that, because you've been able to break open the LA market essentially, and have been able to perform in different venues all over the city. And so, what was your strategy in doing that, and how do you continue to engage your fans?
I mean, back in the day, we said yes. You know, that was what it was. We, you know, we would take every opportunity. So, you know, in one weekend, we would play in 5 different areas. And I think it was because of diversity of the music that we did also. We would play, you know, just for an example, we would play like a mariachi festival at Mariachi Square, you know, in Boyle Heights. Then we would play the Watts, this is like in one weekend, the Watts Drum Festival. We would even play, you know, and then we would go to like Doheny Days or something, you know, in, I don't even know what that place is called. It's halfway to San Diego, but, you know, Dana Point, I believe. And this is all in one weekend, you know, and we were able to, you know, play for just different audiences. So our strategy was to, you know, that we would play, you know, we would open for Wu-Tang Clan, you know, like, and then we would go open for like, I don't know, a punk band like The Offspring, you know, the next week. And so, you know, because at that time, music was very categorized when we came up. It was, you know, there was music stores, and you would go in and you would search by the category that you were into. And when I grew up in the, you know, 80s and 90s, you were defined in Los Angeles by what type of music you listened to. You know, like, are you hip hop? What radio station do you listen to? That's who you are. That's kind of like how the lines worked here. You know, and we defied all that. So our strategy was, let's take 2 Wu-Tang fans, let's take 2 Offspring fans, let's take 2 Chente fans, you know, and start developing our own audience. And so eventually you know, my idea, I thought we were going to be the biggest band in the world. That never happened, but I was hoping that we would have the Ozo Motley category at the music store, you know, because it didn't really fit. Yeah, I would walk into the store and we would be in the punk section, and then we would be in like a hip hop section, and then we'd be in the Mexican section. It was bizarre.
Yeah, thank you. I want to take some questions from our audience. The first question is for Laura and Emily, and it's from Emma, who asks really about she's pursuing a career in media and in social media and in promotion, and is entering her junior year of college. And she's specifically asking, as a woman, is there any advice that you can give her, whether what she should be doing in college right now, or as just being able to stand her ground in the industry? And Laura, we can start with you.
For me, it would be I know it's tough right now, get an internship. If you can't get an internship, there's this phone, right? And I can honestly tell you, even now, there are so many social media specialists, managers, directors out there. Reach out to them. And really just, if you have any questions, like really try to talk to them about it, right? But one thing I would highly, highly recommend is make sure that you're following like TechCrunch, make sure that you're following Adweek, make sure that you're following publications who talk about social media and social media strategy. And the last thing is, I love social, right? And social media is always evolving. And that's the reason why I love it, because it doesn't stay stagnant. It's always evolving. New platforms are always coming out, especially in the music industry. Artists are using social media to connect and really connect with fans, but also being authentic, right? That's super important. So what I would suggest is follow brands, study those brands. What are they doing? How are they talking to audiences? Every brand has a specific voice. And that's the one thing that you're going to have to learn when you go into the digital media space. Like, what is the goal of that specific brand? How are they talking to different audiences? And how are they leveraging each platform to talk to that audience? Because we know that the same audience that is on Facebook is not on TikTok. Same audience that is on Twitter is not on Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. So again, I would say study different brands, but make sure that you're following publications and really stay on top of trends and how are they using those types of trends. Lastly, I would highly recommend you listen to podcasts. Depending on what you want to go into, there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to, especially like women who are in the early stages of their career, to an Emily. And they really talk about their journey and how their journey is very different. But one thing that really that really connects us all is the fact that, you know, being a woman, it can be very tough and to a certain extent, and getting in the room and having that that power to speak up and really voice your opinions, whether you feel as though they might be wrong or right.
Yeah, I would suggest that similar to what Laura's saying, I think you should also look into what's happening within your community, you know, the university, because there's a lot of activity, a lot of opportunities, networking with the local community. But also, I know that we secure our interns through the universities that have programs, so they should look in the offices there to make sure that they're networking. I think you just got to keep networking. You know, whether you're attending shows or networking with with local, political offices that are doing campaigns. As you get into now, we're going to start seeing a lot of campaigns take place. They're going to look for musicians. They're going to look for socials. They're going to look for more driving. We did that with a lot of artists. Like in the last election, there were several artists that had, both the Latino or different organizations that came out and supported those initiatives. So I think that it's important to reach out within where you are in the campus, as well as how you use those resources to help you branch out, and then how you can go into your own, connections. Mm-hmm. I love podcasts too. I mean, I'm surviving on my walks and our podcasts with, Oprah Winfrey's Master Class or Soulful Conversations. And it's amazing that these artists that are huge artists now that didn't have anything. I mean, they didn't have, you'd think that actors and musicians that are so big now came, and they all came from families who, the majority, that didn't have the support. They had to do it themselves.
And really through hard work and perseverance. I'm in our last For the Culture session, which was on Black music and tastemakers within the industry. I asked a question around the barriers that specifically Black artists had with breaking into the industry. And I want to ask that same question around Latin artists, and if you feel, just to see if some of the barriers are the same or if you feel that they've been different. I want to start with Cesar and Wil-Dog, our artists on the panel today. So Cesar, have you experienced any barriers as a Latin artist trying to break into the industry? And if so, what were
they? It was interesting for me because a lot of the Latin talent creatives that I've met along the journey sort of got up in that industry. So for my journey has been a little different because even though being Latino and having that culture ingrained in me, I actually first started in the American pop market, So the challenges for me might have been a little different than the challenges for somebody that actually got up in the Latin industry. For me, I've recently gotten in the Latin industry, and now it's been a lot more lucrative because authentically that is me. But it was interesting, even recently with marketing and branding myself with my original music. It was interesting because a lot of my following and peers and stuff like that knew me as a producer or songwriter or touring musician, like in the American pop market. Like they met me at like a festival where it was all like soul artists and like hip hop, you know what I'm saying? Or I was in the studio with like Tyrese or something like that. So they knew me as one thing. And so it's just like, even though I spoke Spanish, or always spoke Spanish and stuff like that, I had a lot more of a English speaking following. And so translating now my new ventures and my new journey as an artist, it's been interesting when I've dropped certain songs and it's obviously bilingual or in Spanish. And like, I've noticed sort of like my friends or older peers and following kind of like, yo, this is dope. We don't know what you're saying, So for me, it's been interesting because being a Latino, getting up at the American game and now crossing over, it's been interesting trying to get everybody like, all right, follow me here, you know what I'm saying? But it has been, on the upside, it has been very lucrative and amazing getting new followers and seeing new demographics sort of identify with my music, because the way I interpret like the whole Latin market and through my music is very different. It's not like a lot of like what you hear out right now. And that's all because of all the vocabulary I got from getting up and from my journey in the American world,
Wil-Dog, same question for you. Do you find there's any barriers specific to being a Latin artist and breaking into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So I'm not Latino. I'm Jewish white, but I am from the neighborhood, and I created a Latino baby that's called, it's perceived as a Latino baby, which is called Ozomatli. And so we have definitely been, have there been barriers? I mean, yeah, we've played, and I mean, when we played on the Warped Tour, we were on a 3-month tour with a bunch of punk bands, and we were playing salsa one song, a merengue another, and then a hip hop track the next. I mean, we were getting spit on. Like, we went into Oklahoma and we were getting spit on by white supremacists saying, "Go back to where you come from." You know, and then we go play in Mexico, and you know, and I mean, we have a Japanese person in my band. We have me, who's Jewish and white. We have Black people in my band, and then we have Latinos who are Chicanos from, but then there's even diversity within that. So it's like, we're not one thing. But you know, then we go to Mexico and we're not completely considered that either. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you know the term ni de aquí, ni de allá, or somos cholos sin barrio, but that's us. You know, like, we're cholos without a neighborhood. You know, like, we're, that was always us. And we had to, you know, fight our way to be heard. So yes, absolutely. The answer is, and I don't know what it's like for other artists that come from Latino America. I don't know if it's easier, you know, because, you know, you mentioned Cesar, like Ananitos Verdes, because that was like the rock en español. But to play rock en español, you know, like, Emily, did you do the Huateque?
Yes.
You did that? Okay, that was
Shakira was on that tour, right?
Yeah. So you did Huateque. So, but to be on that tour, you had to be from Latino America. You couldn't be like, there was no American Latino bands. So it was like, where did we fit into this bigger thing, you know? Because you had to be like, you know, Maldita Vecindad, Café Tacuba, you know, Ananitos Verdes or Maná, they're all from Latino America, and then we're from the States, but we're trying to sing in Spanish, but we don't speak Spanish that well in interviews. So yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, yes.
But the funny thing about that is, there were, you know, it's like in the Spanish language stations, there's not really like a soul rock en español radio format. It's not like there's a K-Rock or a Power 106 or a iHeart that has, you know, pop and then rock and then our country. You know, we have to advertise Luis Miguel, Maná, Jaguares, like within like certain, like the same thing to reach that demographic, you know, or we'd have to run spots on K-Rock overnights that I could afford for, you know, Caifanes or a Maná to reach that rock in Espanol audience. So yeah, interesting that you would say that about the kind of, you know, discrepancy of fan base of the multicultural, because and I just want to correct you, because you have made it big. Ozomatli is a real household name, so you have had sustainability. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, getting up in the game, man. I was, you know, bumping your stuff, man. So it's an honor.
Look at that. You're a fan right here on the session. I have to bring us to a close. It is that time, the time that saddens me every time it comes. I want to leave our audience members with one piece of advice that you would share with your younger self. And we will with Lara, and we'll go from there. One piece of advice that you would share with your younger self.
So there's two things, and one of them is just plugging our Grammy U program from the Recording Academy that's geared towards college students who want to pursue a career in the music industry. So if that's you, please go over to Grammy.com to learn more about that program. I was an intern for Grammy U. I know a lot of Grammy U members and reps who have gone on to do amazing things. And the exposure and the master classes and the conversations and the mentorship that the Recording Academy provides for those students is just literally, it's amazing. So please head over to Grammy.com to learn more about Grammy U. And then the biggest piece of advice I would say is trust your gut. Just like Emily said, I think that is super important. There were many times where I was like, I want to do this and I know what my gut is telling me. And then like I would look away, right? because I was like, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't know if this is right. So trust yourself. Trust the fact that you are worthy of being in the room. You are worthy of where you're at, and you have the knowledge to literally do whatever you want, right? Sky's the limit.
Thank you. Cesar, one piece of advice you give your younger self.
My younger self?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a good question. I would say for my younger self, I'd probably feed your mind. Get to and read as many books as you can. Really try to understand a strong sense of why very early on. Like for me, at my younger self, if I was talking to myself, I would say like, yo, man, hit the books, you know, read about the stuff that you need to know for your future to just be a lot more fluid, you know, like work smarter, not harder, you know what I'm saying? Well, both really, but, you know, just with the idea of just evolving your mindset and feeding your mindset. So for me, I would just focus for my younger self and like, man, feed your mindset. So that way the rest, you know, of your career and your journey is a lot more fluid and you don't have to make a lot of the mistakes that really cost you, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Wil-Dog, one piece of advice for your younger self.
I would say enjoy your time being young, you know, because you're not going to be young forever. You're going to be older for much longer. And so, you know, and so enjoy that time learning. You know, always be in places where, yeah, like Cesar said, is like learning, for me, it's like be in places where you're the worst in the room, where if you want to be a musician, be the worst musician in the room that you're in, so that people are like on you, like you got to get it right, and you have that pressure on you that if you screw up that note, everyone's looking at you because they know that you might fail because you're the worst one. That's the situation that you all like. I still search those out now, you know, when I'm songwriting, looking for people that are way, and just enjoy and know that this industry needs you. Like it needs you, and it needs kids from the neighborhood. You know, like we live in Hollywood, but Hollywood is made up a lot of people not from LA. But the kids, if you're from LA, I know this is bigger than that, but if you're from LA, you have an experience, or if you're from New York, I mean, all of you do. But I just need to talk to my people from LA. You have an experience unlike anywhere else in the world, because I've been with Ozo Motley. I've been so honored, and just lucky to be able to go to 60 countries with Ozo Motley. And because I'm from LA, I never left this country, you know, before I was in Ozo Motley. And I've never been to a country where I felt like an outsider. And that's because I never went to a country where I saw people who I didn't relate to. And that's because I'm from Los Angeles. Because I can go to Artesia and be in India. I can go to MacArthur Park and be in Guatemala. I can go to, you know, Pico Union and be in El Salvador, you know? So when we go around the world, and that's what I want the youth to bring to our industry, you know, and so for me, it's like, that's what I need to create in my older years from this point on, is helping to create that pipeline from the neighborhood to the industry. And, you know, Emily and Laura, thank you for doing that too, you know, seriously. You know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Emily, last but not least, close us out.
No, the same thing collectively, what we've all said is like, work hard, follow your dream, follow your passion, don't give up. More no's will happen than yeses, but believe in yourself, and you know, keep working. Try to keep working and doing something to have that networking, and just be around people. Exactly what these professionals have said is, you just need to be around those that are better, and leave your friends behind that are getting into trouble and not doing the right things. Whether it means you're staying home more, stay home and study what's benefit for you, because it's all about you moving forward.
Thank you all so much for being here with Music Forward and giving your time and sharing your insights and your expertise with our audience today. I wish that I could, this is my round of applause, I can amplify it by 1,000. You guys dropped some really great nuggets. You guys dropped some really great nuggets today, and again, I'm very honored to have you on our panel.
Get out and vote this year.
Yes, get out and vote this year. We've got more Music Forward programming happening throughout all week. Tomorrow we've got a career development workshop on maintaining your identity and talking about diversity in the workplace. So please go to our website to join that workshop. And next week's industry session will be on the independent artists. So I'm excited to be moderating that conversation with some of your favorite artists. Until next week, be safe and enjoy your lives.
Thank you. Thank you.